Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee new body, we're going to be showing you how to install the RoadMaster custom fit stoplight switch kit. Before we do that though, let's just take a minute. We'll check this out and make sure it's something that you're actually going to need. So when it comes to the stoplight switch, not every vehicle or every scenario is going to, require you to use something like this. And really, there's only a handful of reasons why a stoplight switch is needed. One of the big popular ones is setting up flat toes, right? And so if your braking system has an indicator light, that's where the stoplight switch would come into play. So for example, the big two that come to my mind is the stay and play supplemental braking system, like we have here today on our Jeep, as well as the RoadMaster InvisiBrake. There might be some others out there, but those two for sure that are really popular could benefit from something like this. And another popular reason would be if you're setting up a trailer brake controller. With these Jeeps, you just can't use the factory stoplight switch, if you will, to get that brake signal. So the whole point is a brake controller and these indicator lights require that signal. So when you hit the brake pedal, power would shoot out, telling the indicator light to come on, your brake controller to send power out. And you can't set them up from the factory, so that's where the switch comes in. And that's all that switch is doing. The switch will be normally open when nothing's happening, but whenever you push that brake pedal down, that switch will close and send power out and tell that indicator light to turn on, or let the brake controller know that it needs to send power back to the trailer. That's really all there is to it though. It's a pretty simple component, but it's really important in certain scenarios. It is custom fit to this vehicle, so it comes with a special bracket and makes everything pretty easy to get bolted up and whatnot. And when it comes down to it, the major takeaway, if you're setting up a flat toe and you're using the Stay and Play Duo or the RoadMaster InvisiBrake, or if you're going to be installing your trailer brake controller and you need a way to pick up that brake signal, this is what you're going to need to use. As far as the installation goes, I heard it wasn't too bad. I actually had something going on the other day. I wasn't able to do this, so thankfully my coworker and friend Brad here was able to jump in and take care of it for me. He said it went together pretty good, and didn't take up a bunch of time. So hopefully he can get you going in the right direction if this is something that you're going to be installing yourself.
Stoplight switch is a great way to get a physical indication that our brakes are being applied on our flat-toed vehicle. And it's pretty simple. This bracket's going to mount up underneath using factory mounting spots. And this is a plunger that's going to rest against the brake pedal. So when the brake is at rest, it's going to push that in, closing the circuit. But as soon as the brakes are applied, it's going to open up, sending the signal to our indicator light or our wireless coach link. Now to get this installed, pretty easy. The instructions are really good. It's pretty much just all underneath the dash here, so we're going to need to get a few things removed to gain access. Now the first things we're going to remove are two plastic push pins. We have one on each side, and they're pretty easy. You're just going to want to pry on the center portion to get that removed, and then you can pull the whole thing down. And that's going to allow us to get this underbody panel. It's flexible. We're just going to pull this down to get access to the bolts on the airbag, and that's what we're going to be using to mount up our switch. With the two plastic push pins removed, this is just going to kind of drop down, and we can just pull this down a little bit. And what we're looking for is the two 10mm screws that are attached right here on the airbag. So let's go ahead, we'll get those removed. We'll get our plunger mounted up on our bracket. So I just took off our star washer on the nut. We're going to slide it in the bracket, just make sure it's in the proper orientation. And what I generally do is I back this off. You may have this pushing against the pedal. That's okay. We can always adjust that. It's better to have it too tight, and then we can alleviate that by adjusting these later on. So we'll just get this hand tight. And where we had our hardware that we removed from the airbag, we're going to reuse those, and these are slotted, so it's going to give us some adjustability here, but really what we're looking for is this plunger to push against the brake pedal and depress in. So I can see it's resting against there. It doesn't have to be perfect. There is going to be a little bit of adjustment just to make sure that it's properly done. And then we'll just go ahead and get this tightened down. At this point, I can see that my plunger is still kind of sticking out. So what you're going to want to do is push the pedal. It should be pushing that in. And if you need to, you can adjust based on that slotted portion there or the screws here to make sure that it's a nice tight fit. It shouldn't push against the pedal. The pedal should come back to rest, but it should push that plunger in. So I'll get this adjusted. So with that in place, our plunger looks like it's sitting in a nice position. We'll go ahead, we'll get this underbody panel put back in place. And then all that's left to do is wire this into our indicator light. So we have our stoplight switch all installed, and I got it all wired up as well. I left the wires pretty loose so we can get an idea of where it all goes. Now, this is to use the indicator light on our braking system, but this also comes in play if you plan on putting a brake controller. Some vehicles you can't tie into the brake light wiring from the factory, so in order to get that signal, you can utilize this to become your brake output. Now, as far as wiring this up to our braking system, pretty easy here. I ran my wire down from my indicator light where we have a red and a black wire. The black wire is simply going to be a ground, so I just used this white wire, and what I did is I quick spliced it into the black wire from the G-force. That's our system ground, and that just means that our indicator light is only going to come on when we have our braking system arm by flipping the toggle. So that's a good way to make sure that, again, it's not going to come on when you're normally driving. Now, off the red wire, I have the green wire that I attached to our brake light switch. And then our red wire, there's a few different ways you can do this. The way I do it is I run this out through the firewall and make my way to the battery where I put a 10 amp fuse in a fuse holder, which is not included, but that way we get 12 volt power constantly, no matter if the vehicle's in tow mode or anything like that. So that's going to be run directly to it. The other option is you can use a fuse tap. There is a fuse panel under here, but you're going to need to figure out what fuse stays with power, even when the vehicle's in tow mode, to tap into that. So pretty easy though, basically 12 volt power going in. This is our switch, so when this is opened up, sends the signal through the green and then runs its way up to that indicator light or the wireless coach link, whichever you may have for your braking system.
So again, a big shout out to Brad for helping me out here and showing us how to get this installed. But I think that'll about do it for our look at and our installation of the RoadMaster stoplight switch kit on our 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee new body.